It was a weekend of extremes in the Six Nations. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. Okay, so before we get too much into the weekend's games, let me just say that if you want, more detail on each of these fixtures, I do have individual reviews on the game. So go into more details about, player performance, some stats, etc. So check those out if that's what you're looking for. This is just going to be a summary of each of the games very quickly. Then a look at the table and where that leaves us in terms of the championship. So we're going to start with, first game of the weekend and talked about it being extreme. So easily the best Wales performance we've seen in a very long time. Certainly the best of their losing streak of 15 games. And, personally, I felt that they deserved to get a loser bonus point out of this, even though they didn't. I thought they were fantastic. And I'm absolutely delighted as well that, it feels like Wales are back. And I said it in my, longer review as well. Anyone who was talking about, nobody else, is going to do any better if Gatlin leaves, well, somebody just did better. They didn't win, fair enough, but you can't say that those guys didn't play better than we've seen in that run that Gatlin had of 14 defeats before the weekends. And, if I'm a Welsh fan, which I'm not, but I was a Welsh fan, I'd be thinking, there's light at the end of the tunnel now. There's actually hope there. Doesn't mean they're going to go and, beat Italy and England or wherever in the end of the tournament. Might even lose to both of those. Might not even perform as good as they did against Ireland. But it shows the potential is there to get something more out of this group. A lot of these guys are going to, go on the summer tour. They're going to gel together as a team. In November then, they might cause a few shocks, but you can almost be guaranteed that this, the Welsh team is going to be a lot better going into next year's Six Nations. And that's really, if I'm a Welsh fan, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for quick fixes. I'm looking for kind of a long-term sustained thing. Now, are there problems in Welsh rugby that, that haven't been resolved? Obviously. The WRU, needs to take a huge amount of responsibility. Gatlin is gone. But there's a lot of people in there who, should be gone as well in terms of the neglect that they've shown towards Welsh rugby over the last, decade and a half or so. And that's why, they're in that position, from not having proper pathways, getting rid of, the kind of elite, facilities, etc., camps and things like that for players, and not giving us enough support to the regions. It goes on and on and on. Youth rugby, even the club rugby scene, etc. I think everyone that you talk to in Welsh rugby, has things that need to be fixed there, and they don't seem to be doing any of those. So those guys need to get their finger out and get this sorted. But in terms of just short term at the moment, it's got to be at least a better feeling than it has been in those, other, the 14 other defeats before this on the bounce. Okay, so let's quickly just talk about the game. So Ireland get the perfect start. Jack Conan, who's in for the injured Caelan Doris, has a fantastic, start, gets over for a try. Prendergast converts. Top Prendergast was, up and down in this game, honestly. But he came through it, which is important. Prendergast then, he converts, adds another penalty. Ireland 10-0 up. Looked like they're cruising. Looked like it's going to be, maybe not like an absolute destruction of Wales, because already you can see good signs from Wales at that stage. But it does look like, it's going to be maybe a little routine for Ireland. Then Wales decide, no, it's not. So Gareth Anscombe recalled to the squad, not even picked in Gatlin's original squad. He pops over 2 penalties. And then just before half time, tons of pressure from Wales. We also had obviously the 20-minute red card before that for Gary Ringrose, but Wales, they were applying pressure anyway, but having that extra man, allowed them to just put on more pressure on Ireland again. And Jack Morgan forces his way over next to the post. Anscombe pops over the conversion, and they're leading at the break 13 points to 10. Into the second half then, opening few minutes, Tom Rogers gets over to score, and now they've increased that gap to 18 points to 10, and Ireland really need to produce a response. And then, Prendergast, I thought he did really well, putting over a penalty to kind of just pull them back a little bit. Then Ireland get Jamie Osborne over to score as well, managed to tie the game up at 18-all. And then Prendergast then in the last kind of 15 minutes or so, he puts over 3 more penalties, and Ireland just kind of eased their way away from Wales. Could have been an absolute disaster for Ireland. Could have been Triple Crown gone. Could have been any chance of Grand Slam gone, and any chance probably of the title gone, honestly, if they'd lost that game. So still on track for those. They obviously claimed the Triple Crown as well by beating Wales at the weekend, but this was a fantastic game to watch as well. Even as an Ireland fan, obviously a lot of trepidation for me, heart and mouth kind of stuff, thinking, oh God, like what's going to happen to us? But again, very happy for Wales fans, and very happy as an Irish fan to get out of town with the win as well. I thought we did do well. We coped with adversity. That's been one of the problems for this Ireland team in the past, is when things like this have happened, we haven't been able to produce enough of a response, to actually get over the top of our opponents, but we did it in this one. Okay, so that was, and then the final score was Wales 18, Ireland 27. Okay, on to the next game, and it was England versus Scotland. So, the extreme of this one is, this was the most turgid affair that I can remember seeing in a long, long time in the Six Nations. Absolutely, dire rugby, in this one. And, Scotland produced a few good moments, but not enough. And, that's pretty much why they didn't win. People will point towards, Finn Russell's kicking from the tee for the conversions, but and maybe if you got one, they would have won the game. But you have to think then, if Scotland were winning by a point in the final minute, then, or the final few minutes of the game, then England are not just sitting back, trying to wind the clock down. They're going to try and win a penalty or get a drop goal, and probably going to go on to win the game 19 points to 17 instead. Is, for me, felt like the likely scenario in that game. So you can't just say, oh, the missed kick cost them the game. It cost them possibly a chance at the game, but England could have got themselves more points as well. But the thing about this game, I felt, was, again, just the standard of rugby, very, very poor. It started out great start for Scotland. Ben White over after 3 minutes, but England hit back almost straight away. Get Tommy Freeman over to score, converted by Marcus Smith. So now, England leading. Then Scotland, just around the 20-minute mark, they get Hugh Jones over to score. Now Scotland are 10-7 up, and that was the halftime score. Into the second half, then, England forcing penalties. Marcus Smith pops over a couple for them, and then long range chance, 10 minutes to go. Finn Smith pops that over. England at that stage leading 16 points to 10, and then Scotland produced another bit of magic to get Duhan van der Merwe over to score with 2 minutes left on the clock, and they do have that conversion from Finn Russell potentially to win the game. He misses it. It wasn't a straightforward kick for him, and then after that, then can't really produce anything else to win the game. But for England, the main thing for them is it's a win. It's the first win in the Calcutta Cup for 5 years for them, breaking that hoodoo from Scotland. For Scotland, could have could have, gotten more scores. I don't think, like, blaming on a kick is the right thing. I think, they could have produced more themselves. Between Hugh Jones's try and Van der Merwe's try, like, you're talking about 60 minutes, and they didn't produce all that much in those 60 minutes, honestly. Again, it was very dire rugby. England kicking a lot, but England kicked a lot the whole tournament. They kicked a lot against Ireland, they kicked a lot against France, they kicked a lot against Scotland. So I don't think you can just say, it was a terrible game because of the kicking. It was pretty much, I think, a terrible game just because these two teams coming together, are almost like some kind of cancellation for each other's decent performances. That's what it felt like. As I said, Scotland produced 3 decent moments in the game, but not much more after that. And England took the try well, and they kept up that pressure on Scotland. And if you're Steve Borthwick, if you lose this game, you're going to be in a world of hurt in terms of the amount of people calling for you to get sacked, and you don't know what you're doing, and England lose another tight game, etc. They've now won 2 tight games on the bounce, and that he's got to get some credit for that. Do I think he's gonna produce the most fantastic rugby that England have ever seen? No, but he's in terms of him being the coach, I think he's doing as good as he can. Now, whether England fans and the RFU decide that that's good enough to go to the next World Cup with is another thing. But I honestly think you can't criticize him on one hand, saying he's not winning these tight games, and then when he does win the tight games, then you start criticizing the style that he's winning those tight games in. You've got to kind of pick your battles. If you want England to play fantastic, expansive rugby, then you got to be happy if they do that. And then maybe France win that game, a couple of weeks ago, and Scotland win this game. Would you be happy with that? If England were playing fantastic flowing rugby, but instead of it being 16-15 to England, it turns out that it's like 30 points to 28 in favour of Scotland. Would you be happy with that result? That's what you really got to ask yourself there, right? But yeah, I think neither of these coaches, are in kind of solid positions, with in their kind of head coach role. I think Borthwick, as I said, he's got lots of detractors, and the next time he does slip up, they're going to come back again a lot. Other than the style, they're going to pick at him against results as well. And then for Townsend, I think for him, coming into this, Scotland fans into this championship, not necessarily into this particular game, but into this championship before everything kicked off, probably thought, okay, we're going to beat Wales, we're going to beat Italy, we're probably going to beat England because we've done it for the last 4 years in a row. We're going to have a go against Ireland, and potentially we can beat France. Whereas now, different story, and we'll talk about that when we look at the table as well later on. But well done to England for the win. The style, yes, not brilliant, and as I said, absolutely turgid game of rugby. I pity anyone who has to rewatch this, the likes of Squidge Rugby or people who do those kind of deep analysis dives, having to wade through that again. I absolutely do not, envy you in that regard. Okay, next then, and as I said, the final score was England 16, Scotland 15. Okay, next then, it's Italy 24, France 73. So the last time these two teams played in Rome, Italy did score 24 points as well, but France got 29, so much closer affair. And it was honestly like the first kind of 25, 30 minutes of this game, very exciting. The last 50 minutes or so, fantastic rugby by France, but not exciting at all for me because it was just one-way traffic. And, like Italy, like we'll get into that actually in a minute. So first of all, Italy start well. Tommaso Menoncello gets over to score. Allen converts us, so they're leading. But almost straight off the restart, then Guillard over for France. And then, 5 minutes later, they get Mauvaka over to score. A couple of minutes later, Anton Dupont is over. Then Brex responds for Italy. We have a Tommaso Allen penalty in there as well. So Italy kind of in touch at that stage. But then, Baudin, he's over to score. Then Barret gets over as well. And already coming up to half time, it feels like France is pulling away, and Italy, don't really have a response to it. Then into the second half, Aldrit is over. Then Biel Biarri, you got Dupont getting his second, and then finally Paolo Garbisi scores for Italy, but the game was well gone at that stage, and then it goes back to the one-way traffic again. We have Atasogbe over, and then right at the end, then Baresi for the 11th try for France. Absolute demolition. It's, again, the extremes, the biggest away win in the history of this competition. And Italy, in 2023 in the World Cup, absolute capitulation in the World Cup, against both New Zealand and France. And this one, another capitulation. And there's obviously something in that group of players that when things really start going badly for them, heads drop and they give up. And that's what they did in this game. They gave up, even like Wales, right, in the first game under Gatlin, when they were absolute terrible, right, did not give up in that game. They got absolutely destroyed, fair enough, but every point that France scored, Wales were trying to stop them getting over as best that they could. Now, their best wasn't very good. We got to give that to it. But, Italy, if you're telling me that was Italy's best against France, on Sunday, absolutely not. No way. Not a chance. Italy much better than that, but they just gave up, and it's sad to see, because this team, they've got a core there that could produce something special, but there's also a core there, and it's almost the same players as well, which is the problem, right? There's a core there that when things really start going badly, they disappear, they give up, the hard tackling is gone, the running to make sure that you're getting there to cover space, that just goes, and it just makes it so much easier for the opposition, to run in try after try after try. It seems like, it seems like there's a lack of pride. I'm sure there isn't a lack of pride, because these are very proud players, and we've seen it by some of the speeches that we've seen from Lamoureux in the past, right? But from an outside point of view, it seems like, they've gotten to the point where they're so demoralized that even the thought of, for some teams you can have, we don't want to concede 60 points. We don't want to concede 70 points. We're going to make absolutely sure they don't get over again, right? That kind of thinking doesn't seem to be there for whatever reason for them when things go badly against them. And not a good look for them, and from here you wonder, like, they've had that fantastic win against Wales last time, and it felt like, okay, well, they've avoided a wooden spoon. At least most people thought that. Now you're wondering, well, if Wales actually get a result against either Scotland or England, are Italy going to get the wooden spoon anyway? Because now, if it goes down to points difference, guess who's going to be bottom of the pile? Not too hard to work out. Okay, so final score on that one then was Italy 24, France an incredible 73. Okay, now let's have a look at the table. So let me pull that up now. So top of the table, we got Ireland. Okay, 3 wins out of 3, 14 points. Not the most impressive, performance for them at the weekend, but they're still on for a potential Grand Slam. There's still France to come though in Dublin, and then potentially Italy as kind of another ambush team for them in the final round as well. So no guarantees for Ireland in terms of Grand Slam or even the championship at this stage. It's still too tight to call. But there are only realistically 3 teams left in, who can potentially win the championship. So second then, France, 2 wins and 1 loss. They're on 11 points. If they beat Ireland in Dublin, they're obviously going to leapfrog them to the top of the table, and they're probably going to be the favourites to win the title then, and probably be duking out possibly more with England than with Ireland at that stage. But it's going to be a very exciting last round of games, certainly, because there will be 3 teams in it with a chance to win in the end, I think. Unless England slip up again before then, but they're playing Italy, so probably not. Then third is England, 2 wins and 1 loss as well on 10 points. So they're just waiting, really, first of all, for Ireland to slip up, and then they're thinking, well, we're playing Italy and then Wales, right, in the last 2 rounds, and generally. England never lose to Italy. Probably at their home, so probably going to be a bonus point win. They don't care if Italy get a bonus point themselves. Excuse me. And then before Wales' performance against Ireland, everyone would have said that that was a guaranteed bonus point win for England as well. So they were looking at finishing the competition on 20 points. Okay? So if they finish on 20 points and France beat Ireland, then going into that final round, right, they've got to hope that Ireland don't get a bonus point against France and Ireland don't get a bonus point against Italy. And if that happens, then England would definitely be ahead of them. And then for France, they've got to hope pretty much that Scotland do them a favour, right? And if Scotland do them a favour, England are going to be champions. So that's kind of their route to the title, I think. Next then, Scotland, 1 win out of 3, 1 win and 2 losses on 6 points, right? So now they're looking over their shoulder, I think, at the likes of Italy and Wales, and not necessarily looking up, because they're out of the title race now, and now they've got Wales next, right, and then France to finish. So if they were potentially to lose both of those, right, probably going to finish probably not with a wooden spoon. Probably going to finish maybe 5th in the championship, and then you wonder, is that enough for Townsend to stay on at that stage? Especially with the rumours about Franco Smith, being courted by Wales. Would that make the SRU think we've got to get him in before they take him, or before somebody else takes him? That could be in their thinking. If Scotland lose, 1 or both of those games to finish out, it's not going to be either way. It's not going to be the championship that they wanted. Scotland came into this with genuine ambitions, I think, to actually win the title. That all kind of rested though on them beating Ireland, honestly, and getting over that hoodoo. And then the fact that England were able to break their own hoodoo against them just completely demolished any chance they had, really, of the title. Next then, Italy on 4 points. As I said, when they beat Wales last round, everybody thought that was it, wooden spoon decided. It was even called a wooden spoon decider. But it may not be decided now, because Wales potentially could upset either Scotland or England and leapfrog them. So Italy, down there in 5th place, fantastic performance against Wales, but absolutely dire performance against France. and now they're back in the mud again, really down the bottom. And in Wales at the bottom there, didn't get any match points against Ireland, but they got a whole hell of pride and, a lot of optimism as well out of that. And, that's going to really tee them up for those last 2 rounds. I think they're going to have a real go at Scotland and England, and potentially knock one of those over and get themselves off that bottom of the table and not claim, yet another wooden spoon as well for them. So I think it's been a great weekend for the championship, because you can see there's still so much at stake for every team, going into these final 2 rounds. But for the moment, it's still Ireland leading the way, with France and England, waiting for any kind of misstep from them. Obviously, France can cause that misstep by beating them next time out as well. But that's the end of this one. Let me know what you think down in the comments.